Hey, welcome to the Birth Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Jodi Congdon, and today our special guest is Katie Grimes. She is a business coach, and she hosts the podcast Anything for Love. And before we dive into what our topic is, I want you to talk about just what kind of business coach you are. So you have a very niche and intriguing market. So kind of tell us a little bit about that, and then we will dive into our topic.
So I've worked with small business owners who either it's just them or it is them and a partner. And they would constitute themselves as like people pleasers and people who are perfectionists. And they are in this cycle of feeling like they're not doing enough. And that if they're not doing enough, then they're working really hard. That's causing a lot of stress, right? So they're like, oh my God, I need to take a day off. And then when they take a day off, then they feel guilty for resting. And then they feel like they're behind. The audience is probably going,
Everyone
oh my
who's
God, this is
listening,
it.
it's like me,
Hello.
that's me.
Then they feel guilty for taking a day off. They feel like they're behind. Then they feel overwhelmed and stuck. And then they end up feeling like they're not doing enough. And the cycle just continues. So I go in at each of those phases and help them look at a couple of things. Number one, how can we break this cycle? Where does it come from? And I know we're going to dive into this today too. But then I also look at their business as a whole, right? So, okay, if your business is operating in this particular way, if I can come in and audit it and give you perspective on how to get more time back,
Yep.
it's going to lessen the things that you feel you need to get done. And then from there, I actually will either introduce them to the right people who can take it off their plate or some of the stuff I can do. So really act more like a coach and a consultant. And then we talk about these topics on my podcast, Anything for Love, as well. And that podcast really started because I was relationship coaching, meaning the relationship to self and learning how to trust myself more. So I bring a lot of that, trusting yourself more, how to let go of people pleasing, setting and keeping better boundaries. We talk all about that on the podcast too.
That is so like the people pleasing and the boundaries. That is something that a lot of doulas have and a lot of birth professionals have a lot of trouble with. And it's just it's something that they're constantly working on. But it's hard. It's hard. Just our clientele. They're at such a vulnerable, needy time. So it's like, we want to put on a cape and swoop in, be like the fixers of all the things. And it's hard to back up and just be a supporter and an educator and not like the superhero of the day.
Well, and not to mention create a schedule, right? And a routine that you can actually stick to, because I think most fixers like myself, meaning that I grew up thinking I had to fix other people's behavior so that I was feeling comfortable and okay. And that ended up translating into career. So it's no wonder why I'm a coach, but respecting those boundaries of how much is theirs and how much is mine. And I think with birth professionals, you all are dealing with, okay, I need to be kind of on call depending on what's going on.
Yep.
And so how do I create a routine and a structure and a, schedule that actually allows me to take good care of myself, do what I'm really good at, and focus on the business? That's usually the order. We're kind of like, let me do what I'm really good at, then I'll do self-care. And then from there, I will dive into the business and run it and like look at my finances and stuff like that. And I would almost work a little bit backwards, which is what can we delegate? What can we look at in your business that can either be automated and delegated so you have less to do? So anytime you are working on the business, you're like doing it in less than an hour, probably maybe once a month. Like it becomes a lot easier than we think. And I think so many of us are so in our masculine of like, go, 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 do. I just got to push through and I'll deal with it later.
Yep.
When an actual dysfunctional thing or crisis comes up. But if we can be a little bit more in our feminine, which is, okay, how can I delegate this? A lot of us think I need to spend money to make money, or do I make money to spend money? And so I'm a big believer that first, before you go and spend money on delegating stuff, someone like myself needs to come in and audit, because there are probably plenty of things that we can get off your plate and a lot of things we might not even need to do in the business anymore, so.
And there's a lot of, you and I talked about this before we hit record, a lot of feast and famine, style businesses, or I guess not style business, style seasons, in the doula world. And it's interesting because it doesn't have to be that way. And I think you will dive into
Mm.
why people feel like that, or why that cycle kind of continues. And our topic for today is just the cycle of feeling like you're not doing enough, and what transpires after that feeling hits, because you know it always happens when you're like in bed or driving or in the shop or like doing something where you're like thinking, and you're like adrenaline spikes because you panic, and it's like such an awful feeling. And then you're making this long to-do list of like, okay, I'm not doing enough, here's things that I need to do more of, and then it just starts this downward
Oh yeah.
spiral, and it's
Yeah,
awful.
and it impacts our sleep, and then we can't get to the gym, and then we're eating unhealthy, and then
Yep,
from
yep,
there we're irritable,
yep.
and then it's impacting if you have kids or a partner yourself, it's impacting them, and then you're apologizing, and then it's like, and then it's creating more shame and guilt, and it's
Yeah,
just this vicious cycle
the
that we
vicious
go
cycle.
through. And the
And it,
feast or famine. Oh, I was just gonna
well,
say
I was
that
just going to say, I think it's worse though for doulas, because a lot of times we're called to a birth and it's a long birth, so you're not eating well.
yeah.
You have like carb belly, you have had too much caffeine. It takes days to recover, so you're
Yeah.
still feeling like shit days later. You're not sleeping great, or a lot of us do overnights where
Hmm.
again you're up all night, which does lead to like crappy eating. Like it
Yeah.
definitely does, because it's all quick stuff you can like have in your bag. No one's making a salad, or no one's like
Right.
taking like fresh protein with them. And but then you sleep all day, and then you're just tired and you feel like garbage. Like
Yeah.
it's so it feeds into all the things you're saying.
Yeah, I worked with an overnight newborn care company, and they were dealing with the same thing. And on top of it, they were NICU nurses. So,
Yep.
and they, between both business partners, they had seven, 8 children by the end of it, 8 children. So by the time we were done coaching, and it was like, holy cow. And that cycle is exactly what they were experiencing. And
Yep.
so some of the advice that I gave them, I'll share in the podcast as well, because I think this feast or famine mentality is so chaotic and disruptive to our nervous system that what we end up doing is saying, I can't do this anymore. And we go
Yep.
back and get a 9 to 5. I know you had said
Hmm.
that earlier. It's like you're
Yeah.
seeing some people do that. And it makes sense, right? We're burnt out, we're tired. We're like,
Yeah.
maybe it would just be easy to go in, clock out.
Hmm.
Um, and I think there's a really great way to be able to do what you love, get paid for it, and feel like you actually know how to run a business. That's kind of a big one. I think
Yep.
people put it to the third priority because they don't actually know what they should be
Right.
doing when they go and sit down to do their kind of CEO admin day. They're like, well, what am I even
What am
focusing
I
on other
doing?
than responding to emails, right? Yeah.
Right. And I think doulas are so good at what they do, and there's a reason why they chose this career, but the business piece falls to like the back. And then when you don't know how to do something, or you're not good at it, like it's so easy to be like tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow.
Right.
And then your like books are wild, like you don't know how much money you have, you spend more than you have. And
Hmm.
it's hard too, because we take these large deposits, so like your bank account's like woo, and then it's like, okay, that is not even like money that we have worked for yet, you can't
Yeah.
spend it. And it just gets people do go back to their 9 to 5s for that reason as well, because they're like, I can't run a business. Like or they work for an agency, which is great, I'm not knocking that. um but they could be getting their ducks in a row just
Yeah.
a bit more, um to better themselves and their business and their bank account and their family life and their free time and all the things.
Yeah, and I feel like it makes sense why we feel like we're not doing enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like because
They
there's so much on your plate and the to-do list is consistently getting larger and larger and larger.
Yep.
So if we were to kind of work backwards, some of the advice that I give to my private coach, or the advice I give to my private coaching clients, is let's understand the business. Okay, so let's understand that first of all, you need liability insurance, legal documents, legal things on your website, like a privacy policy. I won't go into all of that because
Mm-hmm.
many business owners at this stage in the game, quote unquote, should have it, or they've been putting it off. If you've been putting it off, all the hard work that you've been trying to do can go out the window like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that I always, first meeting out of the gate, we prioritize and we make sure you've got the liability insurance, you got the bank account. If you're not an LLC, you're a sole proprietor, that's fine, or maybe a partnership. And
Yep.
really look at, okay, is the business legally set up that if the
Yep.
tax
So
guy came
logistics.
tomorrow,
Yep.
that we would, or the tax woman would, we would be okay. Like we would be legit. Okay,
Yep.
step one, there you go. Okay, now from there, Step two, is it easy for clients to buy from you? Or is it difficult because you have to be the one that's interacting with them? So,
Hmm.
perfect example with the overnight newborn care company. They were printing their legal documents for clients to sign in person. And then the other thing, when we first started coaching together, they were also going back and forth on email about finding a time to do a consultation with their clients. And the two things
That
that I
hurts my
changed.
heart
Right.
just
The
to
two
hear
things
that.
I changed right from the jump,
Yep.
aside from step number one that I just described, is step number two was very much going into their email and having an auto response, and having their social media have an auto response as well, to give them the ability to not have to be on email all the time. They did
Yep.
that. I shit you not. They got like 10 consultations within, like, I want to say, we didn't count, but I want to say it was around 8 or 9 days, is
Yep.
how many people. And they both were like, holy shit, this like saved
So
so
much
much
time.
time, so
And
much
it's like
time. And
when
then,
you're an agency owner and you have, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 client inquiries, each week, and you have to figure out a time to meet them. Can you imagine going back and forth? Because meanwhile, I mean, I do a lot from my phone, like watching gymnastics or like, waiting in the car line. I would never be able to keep any of that
no,
straight.
and then you
Like,
lose track of like, who did you respond to and where did you leave
and
off,
your
and like all that
client's
stuff.
annoyed. They're like, this just wasted my time too. Never
Yeah.
mind your time, but like, and we get quite a few. I just had a baby last week and I'm in complete like
Yeah.
overwhelm. So you're already overwhelmed. You're already, sore, tired, aggravated. And now we're trying to like go back and forth and
Yeah.
find a time. Like, no, hop on my calendar, expedite the process. My calendar already says the times that I'm available. So I'm out of the equation. Now you
Yeah.
pick what's best for you. Like, I mean, that is a game changer.
Well, and I think too that why I'm starting with basics, even though many of your audience already has a business and they likely already have all this set up, is because 99.9% of clients, business owners, will come in and not have this done.
Mhm.
And that's why, no matter, I had a business owner, she was in business for 6 years and she hadn't had any of this stuff done. And I'm like, okay, this is why we're starting here, because it takes that pressure off. But then, of course, just what are the things that you're doing? And a lot of them will say, I've never run a business before. So I just like don't know that I can literally have somebody electronically sign. And I'm a big proponent of get the free ones to start,
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
free Calendly, get the free, Dropbox sign, all of those things for free. You don't have to spend money on it to make it happen, but
Yep.
but looking at how easy is it for people to buy from you? You don't need to buy many chats on Instagram. Instagram actually has an auto response for free that is just a one time when somebody DMs you. So it's like,
Mhm.
again, looking at these, and the message is very simple, like, thank you for inquiring to work with name of company.
Yep.
If you are interested in whatever it is that you do, please click here to book a consultation. Now, on the back end, right, you're connecting that with whatever calendar you use, but you're
Mhm.
also, when your schedule is so all over the place, you don't have to make sure Calendly's up to date. You got to make sure your calendar is up to
Mhm.
date. And so something that I have done with my clients is I say, if you are going to schedule a vacation or you're going to schedule your kids gymnastics meet, you
Yep.
have to schedule that, and it's a priority. Nothing gets in the way of that.
Yep.
The same with the dentist, the same with your
Yep.
OBGYN, like whatever your appointments are, you have to do the same thing when it comes to sitting down for whatever, a half hour, an hour.
Mhm.
I'm ADHD girl. I need a half hour. I can't do an hour. If I look at it on my calendar, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. But if I block a half hour on my calendar and say, okay, what are the things I need to get done? Some of the things that people find to be super helpful is having that list already in their phone, like a note.
Yep.
They open it up and they go, okay, I'm sitting down to look at my finances. How much money's coming in? How much money's going out every single month? And they're just focusing on the month in front of them and they're looking ahead a month. That'll
Mhm.
give them a great opportunity to say, how many more clients do I need to bring in? Eventually, what I do with clients is then we're looking out quarterly. Like, let's now look out 3 months so we can see,
Yep.
when are you going to run out of money, right? Essentially. It can also be, so money coming in, money going out, finances. That can also include paying yourself. That, again,
Mhm.
these are things that you can write down, like paying yourself, paying your taxes, paying your employees. Those all things that could kind of fall under that window. I also have a day where I just write down like any social media marketing or newsletters I want to write. So that's kind of falls under marketing. And then in terms of sales, I sit down and I go, okay, what emails do I need to get back to? What clients do I need to schedule? Is
Yep.
there anything for my clients that's kind of missing? And that to-do list is already kind of written down. So it's looking at those big picture things. But if you really think about it, it's only a couple things: sales and marketing,
Yep.
finances, and client interaction, there's not a ton more to do after you've completed those like three big
And
tasks.
there's a lot of follow up, especially with agency owners, because you are, at least the way I run my business, I am meeting with those clients. I am getting to know exactly, what their needs are. I want to know more about them. And it makes me, able to make a perfect match. But so I'm having that initial consultation with them, taking the time to, take a look at it, match with the doula, get back to them in a timely fashion. And one of the funny things that you said earlier, which totally, sort of struck a chord with me, is that we don't leave ourselves enough time to do these tasks. And we're
Mm-hmm.
always just feeling like we're behind the eight ball. Out of my mouth all the time comes, oh, it's Wednesday. I will get back to you, no later than Friday morning. And then as soon as it comes out of my mouth, I'm like, I should have said Monday.
Yep.
Why did I say that? Because sometimes it takes me longer because the doula's at a birth and we can't talk about scheduling. So it's like I don't ever leave myself enough time. But we've now been doing this for 10
Yeah.
years. It's like, Jodi, stop it. But I don't.
Yeah.
I don't, because I feel like
This,
they on their end want a fast answer. And I will say, for the most part, these are referrals. So like they didn't reach out to 10 agencies. Like they're waiting for me and they
yeah.
will wait for me and it's fine. But I still feel that, you know, sense of like false urgency where I
Yeah.
need to like run,
It's
faster than I want to.
10 out of 10 clients.
Yep.
So if I've coached 100
Okay,
people,
good.
100 people have done this, which is you overcommit because you want to be quick to respond. The
Yep.
problem with being quick to respond is two things. Number one, you are not logically being able to take a breath, calm your nervous system and go, okay, is this a priority to get back to her? Of course it is. Immediately we're like, well, this is a client, I got to go. But
Yep.
are you making an error? And chances are that error is even just in how quickly you can respond to them. So
Yep.
what I always say, general rule of thumb, if you're going to respond to a client instantly when you get it, number one, take a breath.
Yep.
Literally breathe in, breathe out, ask yourself if it's a good time right now. Your body will tell you, yeah or no. Okay. Move on. Step two, let's say it's a good time. From there, you go to respond back to the client and you're like, I will let you know in 2 days. Before you type the word 2 days, I want you to then go back and write 4 days. And the reason being for business days, by the way,
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Yeah.
necessarily weekends. And why we do that is because so much is in flux over those 4 days, meaning your kid could get sick, you could get sick. The doula who you've been waiting for to get back to you because she's on call right now is
Yep.
unresponsive because there was an emergency. So
Yep.
you're buying yourself
There's so
time.
many like just variables.
Something that I've started to do is I've started to let people, when people want a sense of urgency, even if I'm hiring like a coach or something and they're like, I want to know now, but I'm always like,
Yeah.
great, I will let you know as soon as I talk to my team. And I kid you not, I give at least 7 day notice. I go, I will let you know 7 days from today or
Mhm.
a week from today. So that way, if they're hitting me up before, I don't respond to the email because I'm like, I told you I was going to get back to you by,
Mhm.
on or by 7 days. Now, on or by is a really important phrase to bring up too, because it doesn't mean that you are going to, you know, get to them right then and there, but you're
Yep.
aiming to do that. And I feel like when we can buy ourselves a little bit of time, it takes us out of the chaos of having to go, do, be, because what happens is when we don't respond back to the client when we said we would, we cause ourselves more shame, more guilt. Then we feel embarrassed. Like, what are they
Yep.
going to think of us? Then we feel like we're not doing enough. And then that
Or they reach
cycle.
back out and they're like,
Oh,
"Oh, just checking in," and I'm like, "Oh, like
yep. And that
the
is the
worst,
worst because
worst."
what ends up happening is now we've told ourselves a story. Oh, they think I'm irresponsible or,
Yep.
whatever. I will tell you though, I have a client who works in the wedding business. Now I know they're different businesses, but the scenario is exactly the same.
I worked in the wedding business
She
before I was a doula, and it's so similar. It's so
it's
similar.
so similar. So
Yep.
she literally was not responding to people. Like she'd say she'd get back to them in whatever, a week, and then she wouldn't. It'd be 2, sometimes 3. And that's why she called me. She's like, I need help. I need to stop doing this. And we did that whole exercise of giving them time. But what ended up happening is I got word from a mutual friend. This talk about the game of telephone. One of my clients is sitting at a bar, different client, by the way. So call client A, and then client B is who was having the issue. Client A goes to a restaurant. Somebody sees her and says, hey, don't you know client B? And she's like, I do. She's like, can you get me in? I emailed her 3 weeks ago and I haven't heard from her yet, but she told me she would get back to me. And the girl goes, I can pass the message along because she knows that I'm both coaching them. So
Yep.
they know each other because I'm coaching them. So she tells me, and then I go and I tell client B, and I was like, way to talk about feast or famine. I go, now you're creating
Yep.
scarcity marketing and you don't even realize it. I said,
Yep.
so you can use it to your advantage. I said, but they don't know that behind the scenes, you are beating the shit out of yourself
Yep.
and also so in your head about it. And that's what
Yep.
I really aim to relieve clients with is, okay, like, how do we stop having you beat yourself up and overthinking everything? Because it
Mhm.
literally, even though we know it's going to take 2 seconds to send the email, we don't. And so I want to talk about why do we not do it, even though we know that we should. You want to go through that cycle again?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So if you're not driving, you guys, you can literally grab a pen and a piece of paper, and we're going to do a quick exercise. You're going to draw 4 lines, one on top of the other. So 4 horizontal lines. And at the very top of it, it's going to say joy and contentment. This is where Jodi and I are right now. We're like living our best life. We're calm. We're peaceful. We're just feeling really good, right?
Yep. We talked about what beach we're hitting tomorrow.
Right? Yeah, we're just chilling, right? And then the line under that is fight or flight. Now, I know many of you know this through your nervous system regulation tools in your own training, but hear me when I say this: fight or flight. Write it down. Fight or flight is when you are saying to yourself, I just got to power through. I just got to get through this. Then I'll eat.
Yep.
Or I'm irritable. I got the anxious poops. I am getting a little bit of a headache. I'm holding my breath. My neck hurts. Like, these are the symptoms that your body is firing off to say, hey, heads up, in 25 miles from now, you're going to run out of gas. And you know what we do at 25 miles when we're driving our cars at 25? We're like, I got 25. The, the gas
Every
station
time.
isn't until 23. I'm good. Like, and so we push on. And so that is why we then go into line number 3, fawn or freeze. This is where our people pleasing comes in. This is where we start to break our boundaries. This is where we start to say yes to a client when we really meant to say no or
Mhm.
not right now. It's where we don't ask for help because we feel stuck, we feel overwhelmed. How you know you are in freeze or fawn is when you say the words, I'm overwhelmed. I also hear clients say, I'm stressed. That's
Yep.
another one I hear. As soon as you hear those words come out of your mouth, or you have a team around you and you say, when you hear me say this, give me a little click, click, or do something
Yep.
to get my attention. What you have to realize is you are one more line away from a trauma response. So that's line number 4. Trauma response. That can be anything from migraines, the flu, viruses. It can be it could be panic attacks, anxiety, depression,
Mhm.
suicidal ideations. You name it, you've now hit level 4. You don't want to hit level 4. This is not a game that you want to play. So why I share that kind of 4-line thing is because oftentimes what happens when you are not responding to somebody and you know that you should, it's because you are at level 3. You are at freeze or fawn. And if you are not careful, you will go into 4. And what happens when you go to level 4? Not only did you have to pull off on the side of the road because you ran out of gas, you
Yep.
blew all 4 tires. So now you can't. And one of my clients yesterday goes, and then I opened my door and a Mack truck came by and hit the door and the door's gone, and we were
Yep.
like, that's exactly what happens. So
It's all downhill from there. It's like,
it's all downhill. So
yep.
what is great about knowing these like 4 steps is I check in on myself every day. When I find myself skipping a meal or delaying my meal,
Mhm.
or I find myself just going, okay, one more email, I not all the time, but most of the time now go, I better be careful because for me, my level 4 is a migraine. And when I get a
Mhm.
migraine, I'm throwing, I'm going, it's awful, and I am
Yep.
down. Now I have to reschedule clients, like all this shit. I don't want to do
Yep.
that.
Yep.
So at
Which brings on more stress.
more
So it's like
stress
a vicious
and more,
cycle.
I feel like I'm not doing enough. So at
Yep.
level 2, the story I tell myself, if you are not careful, Katie, you are going to get a migraine, and we know what happens. So I play out worst case scenario.
Yep.
Now instantly I'm like, okay, what can I eat? Now with those of us with ADHD, this is very hard to make a decision to stop and go eat because we don't really know what we want. And then we're standing in front of we're standing in front. It's okay to get takeout at this point, right? And I think a lot of us are being like, we're not eating healthy, we're doing takeout. eating is better than not eating at this point,
Mm-hmm.
because what I need you to realize is that you're at level 2. We need to get back up to level 1 so you can be operating at your full potential with your
Yep.
clients, so they will refer more business to you. You will be able to take a vacation, you will be able to sleep better, you will be able to be
Yep.
more present for your kids, whatever your level 1 is, whatever brings you joy and contentment. So if you, chances are, as you're listening to this, and on level 2, you were like, oh my God, I get the anxious poops. That's me. Okay, that's your sign. I want you to like circle it and be like, whenever I get that, or I start burping, or like whatever the thing is that happens
Yep.
for you, mine's neck pain as well. Instantly, that's your reminder that you need to change your behavior. And I'll talk about what that means in a second.
So people need to now think about, okay, what is it for me? Like, how do I recognize it? Because I bet a lot of people listening are like, I'm not really sure what that is for me.
Yep.
Like, they're going to have to pay better attention.
Yeah.
Um,
Because we ignore ourselves at level 2. So that's what happens.
of course.
The signals fire, right? The gas light comes on and says you got 25 miles left, and we're like, we look, we literally feel the cue, the hunger cue. We're like, yeah, okay, I'm hungry, but not right now. Is because we're like, oh, I've got 25 miles until I need to get to a gas
Mhm.
station. The gas station's at 23. I'm good. So I think you're right. It's paying attention to your body and going, what do I need right now? Do I need to pee? Do I need water? Do I need to eat? And
Mhm.
then do I need to get outside? Like, what is the thing you need? So I like to play a game with myself like I'm a little kid. I'm like, are you hungry? Are you tired? Do you need water? What do you need? And then I will respond to myself. It
Mhm.
happens every time. My body will be like, you need water, you're thirsty. And it's like, all right, I'm going to start there. Right.
Yep. Yep.
And only focus on that task. Don't try to then go eat and then sit back down at the computer. I've been notorious to do that.
Mhm.
Instead, it's like, let's just eat. Because once you just eat, very quickly, you will be able to come back up to level 1.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
what's happening,
I will bring food right back to the computer.
yeah. And so a big thing that can disrupt going, because when you bring food back to the computer, you're actually staying at level 2, regardless of actually feeding yourself,
Mhm.
because, you're doing other things, and you're not actually paying attention to the fact that you're eating. So you're just kind of shoving the food in and then going down. And that's why level 3 can happen. So if you're eating lunch at your desk and you're still feeling like you're holding your breath and tension, level 3 then occurs with this freeze or fawn. And now when you're responding to that email as you're eating, now you're like, oh, I'll get back to you in 2 days. You very
Yep.
very well know it's 4. Why are you not thinking that? Because you're in fight or flight and you're dropping down to freeze. And
Mhm.
that's when you'll, maybe take a breath after doing it and go, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. And then that's how oh shit, okay, that's another cue for me. I'm overwhelmed.
Yep.
Now I got to get back up to level 2. How do I do that? Maybe I go for a walk. I can rub my earlobes. I can take 4 deep breaths.
Yep.
Anything that will regulate your nervous system, singing, humming, gargling, yeah, any of those can be really useful. And I find for me, I ain't got a lot of time. So I'm like, what is the thing right now that I can do? What I do is I stand up, I immediately change my energy. I stand up and I'll start humming or I'll start dancing. Literally, just by myself, I'll be like, and when I do that, my body is just like, oh, cool. Okay. Joy and contentment. We're having a blast. And you can also try smiling. That can bring you back up to joy and contentment very easily. This will help you drastically stop the I'm not doing enough cycle if you repeatedly keep doing it. You don't need to shame yourself if you can't get into the habit yet. You've already formed a habit for as many years as you've been on this planet
Mhm.
with the I don't feel good enough kind of talk, and also the I'm not doing enough talk. So it's going to be a repetitive habit that you'll just have to continue to spot, which is with the symptoms I just gave you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know like the humming, the singing, any of that.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that they're just quick little tools that you can have, that it's not like this huge production.
15
Um,
seconds. That's all you
yep.
need. Hmm.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
I love
It's
this.
Yeah, it's really wild. And I think too, it like will get us also out of that feast or famine. Because remember, feast and famine is actually fight or flight. Think about it. When you're in feast or famine, it's go, go, go. My neck hurts. I'm going a million miles an hour. I slept like shit. Like, you are just, even your spending, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
paycheck to
You're
paycheck.
just not making good decisions. Like, you're just not making good decisions. And then,
And
you
how do I
know,
know that, Jodi? Because I've done it.
oh,
That's
me
why I
too.
teach it.
Me too. And I think one of the things too that I've heard a lot of doulas talk about is that, they get into this mindset, and then they feel like they need to offload these tasks to people, and they need to delegate. And, you know, it's not smart delegation, and you're spending more money than you have coming in. And I like
Yeah.
to
Oh,
say, make a lot of money before you spend a lot of money. But people are like, oh, I need someone. Social media is so exhausting. Like, I need someone to take over my social media. And like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Like, that is not where clients are finding you. That is not a priority. But they think of all the things that take a long time, they hate to do, or someone else tells them they need someone to take it over. And then they end up having, less money than, you know.
yeah. A couple of things there. I think that, one of the cycles that I've seen with this I'm not doing enough is when we go on social media, we start to compare ourselves to other people who have
Mhm.
similar professions. We can see that they're posting a lot. It makes us feel like we're not, so we like get off social media. We don't actually post anymore at all, or if we do, it's very sparingly, which makes us feel guilty because we're like, well, that is where a majority of our clients are finding us. Now for me, and all the business owners that I have worked with, and me
Mhm.
personally, social media is where most of my clients find me. Why? It's not because the algorithm sent it out to them
Mhm.
necessarily. It is because I was sitting having lunch with Viv, and Viv then ran into Mara, and then Mara reached out on me and started following me on Instagram.
Mhm.
And that's what's happening behind the scenes. And we as business owners can't necessarily see that and know that, oh, she had lunch with her, and that's why now she's following me. And it's
Right.
actually because she's going through the thing that I help with, right? So what ends up happening is this vicious cycle, which just makes us feel guilty because now we're not posting.
Yeah.
And you're right, like outsourcing that work doesn't necessarily it's not a cost you need to do, in my opinion, not especially in the first. I mean, I'm 6 years in and I'm not even outsourcing it yet. I tried to
Yep.
at the beginning because I felt the same way. I was like, this is so annoying, it takes so much time and I'm not good at it, and I don't know how to edit in Canva and like all this stuff.
Mhm.
And eventually over time I also hired, and this is one of the services that I offer, is like hired a coach to help me write and teach me how to write. And what I do with my clients is I say, all I need you to do is post once a week. I don't need you to post every day or on a
Yep.
story, because what happens, Jody, is that we end up posting once and now we're like, well, that was easier than I thought it was. But a
Mhm.
lot of people, those first like probably 10 posts that they do, they're trying to edit reels and all that. They are like, it takes me one reel, it takes me
Oh, it
an
takes me an hour.
hour and a
Yeah.
half.
Yep.
And
Yep.
when you have someone to show you actually how to do it and do it fast, then it's taking you less than 10 minutes and you're actually getting more creative ideas. So the advice that I give people, and this is what I do in my private coaching, create a
Yeah.
Google Doc, create literally a Word doc,
Yep.
brainstorm all your ideas in there, and then take one of them and take that one, create it into a story, make it a reel, and then pop it into the newsletter,
I use
and you're
Notion.
done.
Yep,
And
I
you're
use
done.
Notion, and it allows you to like figure out your content pillars, and then from there, pop out like the little sub ideas, and then, ideas for whatever you want, and then you can make a podcast, or you can make a
Mm-hmm.
story or a reel or whatever from the same,
Yep.
webinar that you did. So it makes it really easy. But what I think, for doulas, they get out of their training and they're not, busy with clients yet. They're not making a ton of money. They think that Instagram is how they're going to get, a fully booked schedule. So they're
Mm-hmm.
like spending all their time and all their energy trying to figure out, what to put on there. And, I think for a lot of other industries, people do get clients from social media. I think for doulas, maybe, but the majority are coming from, they heard you from their OB or heard about you from their OB, or it was, a friend or a coworker or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're checking you out on Instagram. They already have your name. They're not finding you. They're not seeing you for the first time on Instagram.
Right. Yep.
But they're sort of, doing their due diligence. They're checking you out. But you do have to have, a good personality on there. And your stuff does have to be, evidence based and up to date. They want to know about your life. They want to know about tips and tricks. They want to know about, a client that you took or whatever. So you do have to put a lot of time and effort into it. But don't mistakenly think that that's where your clients are coming from. Like,
Yep.
you need to get out there and meet people and network, and you still need to do that personal connection piece. You can't just sit behind the computer and be like, I'm going to get, 10 clients every month from this. And so it's almost like you have to do double. You still have to do all the actual work, and then you have to put it, onto social also. So I think
Yeah.
it's a common misconception, because so many other industries, they do build their clientele from Instagram or
Yeah, I
TikTok
think that's
or
fair. I
whatever.
mean, I think that the advice that I gave a client who was posting on social media and not networking is that you do have to do both. Like,
Mhm.
so anybody who's kind of new to the game, I always say new to the game, meaning like new to a business. I
Yep.
always say you don't need a website. What you need to do is have some social media presence. Maybe it's even just an Instagram.
Hmm.
Take up 9 of those squares. So that way, when as soon as they click, the whole profile's there.
Yep.
There's a link to book. There's an action to tell them to book, and then you've got those 9 posts right there that it walks them through. Who are you? What do you do? How do you
Yep.
help them? All that stuff. I say use that Instagram platform actually as your website because
Yep.
you don't need to spend all that money doing that.
Yep.
What you then
And they
need to
can
do,
find
and
you and they can reach out and you can figure
exactly,
it out from there. Yep.
and then what I have them do is say, okay, and this was the advice I gave one of my clients is she was working with moms, and I was like, well, where are your moms? Like, you know, moms. So could you make a list of moms that you know? In this case, it would be like, make a list of women you know who are pregnant, make a list of women, people you know that are trying to conceive, make a
Yep.
list of people who are OBGYNs, like in your area, if you're working in one particular area. And then from there, ask them to coffee. I just started
Yep.
my business and I would love to hear your experience and what you're looking like, and just ask out a place of curiosity, not like let me tell you about my business. Let me
Mhm.
tell you about my business is going to happen when you're sitting there, but as someone who is in sales for years, I can tell you that is never what got me in the door. What got
Mhm.
me in the door was like, hey, I've heard so much about you, from so and so, and I
Yep.
would love to get to know you better. Can we go to coffee or can we go get juice? And I'm
Yep.
specifically saying next Wednesday at 3 o'clock, are you free? Not just
Yep.
let me know when you're free. When
Yep.
you ask a
Be
question to
specific.
someone like that and be so specific, they feel they have to get back to you because you literally said, "Can you meet Wednesday at 3?" question mark.
And
Right?
there's some, you're going to benefit them and they're going to benefit you. And I always like to say, make that semi obvious by the way you're reaching out. And I like to have a connection point. So I ask all of our clients, who's your pediatrician, who's your OB, what company do you work for, blah, blah, blah. So when I'm reaching out to this OB to talk about my business and, how we can benefit each other, I can say, I care for quite a few of your patients, or, your favorite nurse and I have kids in preschool together, or whatever. So I always
Mm-hmm.
like to make sure there's a connection point, but you know, it's not just about, oh, you already have a captive audience, push those guys over to me. How can I make your practice look better as well?
Yeah. As
And
a
I find people, at least, I know I'm way more receptive to someone when they reach out, we know someone similar, or we have some connection point,
mm-hmm.
and it's already obvious that it's going to be a very, back and forth relationship. Not like, hey, I'm new in the area. I would love to take you out to coffee to tell you about me.
Right.
So then you can refer your patients to
To
me and
me,
then it
yeah.
benefits me. So I think people go about it all wrong. I mean, I know when I started, I probably sent, you know, postcards to like 100 OB offices. And like that was a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money. Nobody's referring out someone they don't know. I mean,
Right.
when I get those kind of inquiries, I delete them. I don't
Yeah.
know you. Like, why are you asking me to utilize my hard work, and my audience for your benefit? No way.
Well,
So you have to go about it right, but that can be your pot of gold for sure.
yeah. Well, and it goes back to this idea of like, how do you get more time back, right? So I'm all about how can you be more efficient with your time? And I'm sure someone's listening to this going, oh my God, I could do this, I could do that. And now
Yep.
already they have so many ideas that they're like, wait, which one do I start with once the to-do list is, this podcast is done and they look down, right? And so what I always say is like, literally look down the list that you just created and look at the one that number one you feel like would get you the biggest results. So what is
Mhm.
the biggest result? It's different for everyone. Is it getting clients? Is it making money? Is it taking a vacation day? Is it having less work to do? Like whatever
Yep.
the is, look at that one, start there, and then move on. And then give yourself, the second thing is give yourself more time than you think you need. So again, whether you told a client you'd get back to them or you're working on this particular project and you want to crank it out in a week, give yourself 2 weeks. And I think what
Mhm.
happens is many people feel like they are not being productive and they quote unquote procrastinate. Procrastination is a symptom of ADHD. So when we look at this whole, like if you draw a straight line and you look at ADHD, it's kind of smack dab in the middle, right? So like ADHD can often make us feel like we can't focus. We're not able to actually get the sentences out that we want. We might
Mhm.
even stutter, right? But before that, where ADHD comes from is a stress response. So something triggered us to feel that way. So maybe the trigger was that client said that they were going to sign up, but they're not. Or you know that you're going on vacation in a week and you have all these things to get done. And
Mm-hmm.
now that's the trigger because you feel like you're not doing enough. And so what happens is stress ends up giving off those symptoms like ADHD, like procrastination. And what happens is it then makes us feel like, again, we are not doing enough. So I
Mm-hmm.
think oftentimes people who have ADHD feel so different and they feel like, oh my God, like I keep pushing stuff off. What happens is we get a little high, I'm like, literally, if you looked at our brain when we procrastinate and we have a deadline and we're just going to push through to that deadline, said we'd have 2 weeks, but we really just gave ourselves the full 2 weeks, even though we could have done it a week ago and things were like, you literally will see that dopamine is being fired. Like it's such a drug to our brain that it's like, keep doing that, keep procrastinating, because you're gonna feel so productive when you're done with it. But what
Yep.
happens is you feel fucking exhausted on
Exhausted.
top of feeling
Exhausted. Exhausted.
exhausted. And so exhaustion is a symptom of fight or flight. So now you're already at level 2 again. So like, again, it's this concept of like, this is the evolving wheel of like, when I don't feel good enough, when I don't take breaks, when I feel guilty. And the last thing I'll say about it is it all of this shit, everything I just described for the whole
Mm-hmm.
podcast stems from a feeling, excuse me, stems from a thought actually. And the thought that you think makes you feel like you're not doing enough. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever you said I feel exhausted, well, exhausted is a feeling as well. And there's this great technique that I give all my clients when they come to me and they say, I feel exhausted. I feel like I'm not doing enough. I go, okay, go to the feelingswheel.com. Literally, it's called feelingswheel.com. It's a little wheel, literally a wheel with like 100 feelings. And I ask them to name the feelings that they're feeling. So they'll bounce around. And then I'll say, tell me a story based on each feeling. So, for example, if you are feeling like you're not doing enough, maybe the story that you are telling yourself is that you can't, like, maybe when I'm trying to think of myself, when I feel like I'm not doing enough, I feel it's because the thought I'm thinking is I have just so much to do on my to-do list. And if I don't get it all done, then I'm not going to make money. And if I don't make money, then I'm going to live in a cardboard box. And then if I live in a cardboard box, nobody's going to want to be my friend. Like we
Yep.
have these innate fears, and so underneath the thought is really a fear, right? A fear of scarcity,
Yep.
abandonment, whatever it may be. And Jodi, that's so familiar because 99.9% of people in this entire world have grown up with some type of dysfunction. I grew up with parents, one of whom was just dealing with alcoholism, and the other had parents who died very young. So he
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have parents. So now you have two parents who are fighting for their life, trying to feel good about themselves, but
Yep.
ended up getting out of a marriage where they didn't really love each other and then creating a baby out of that. And so what happened is I think in the 80s and then especially like our grandparents, they grew up in the Great Depression. So they were
Mm-hmm.
hiding money. My grandmother literally left me a jewelry box and I didn't realize, but under the jewelry box, she didn't know it either. There was $50 hidden. And that's how they used to operate, out of this
Yep.
scarcity. So what we have to be mindful of is part of it is within our control. Part of it, of this calming ourselves, feeling more grounded, not procrastinating, not having our ADHD symptoms take over, very much is within our control. We can hum, we can sing, we can dance, we
Mm-hmm.
can stand up, we can take breaks, etc. But part of it is actually generational. Part of it is the environment we grew up in. And then part of that is also just genetics, meaning
Yep.
that when my mom had me, she was very stressed.
Yep.
So it made sense that I came out anxious, right?
Yep.
So we have to look at, there are things outside of our control and there are things that aren't. And if you find that you are doing the things within your control, the things that make you feel really good about yourself and create self-esteem for you, if
Mm-hmm.
those other two areas, like the things that you can't control, like what's going on in the world right now or how you grew up, that's a great place to go to therapy for, right? That's where I often will say to people, like, coaching is very much for the here and now, and
Yep.
like how can we support you in your goals, but it and help you stay accountable to do the things that will make you feel esteemable. But when it comes to how you grew up and the addiction and the and or dysfunction that we all grew up in, we have to understand that that is really truly where the ADHD, where the procrastination, where the fight or flight comes from, is because we're used to living in chaos. Now, for
Mm-hmm.
some of us, chaos looks so different, Jodi. Like for some of us, it could have been that our dads worked a lot, so they just weren't around a lot, right?
Yep.
And for some of us, our moms could have been helicopter moms. They loved us so much that they were just like
Yeah.
around all the time. So dysfunction is different to everybody, but I think if we can understand that we are accidentally perpetuating that chaos that we're just used to, and we say, I'd like to do it differently, and you don't know how to do it differently, that's really where coaching can come in. And I personally don't love taking a course to do that. I actually love the face to face because that
Yep.
has helped me the most. But yeah, I just want to like tell people that if you're listening to this podcast and you're feeling like, oh my God, like this is so me, and you don't really know where to start, getting help is the first place to start, is being like, oh, I want to work with Katie, or oh, Jodi can help me get organized, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. People are going to be like listening to this and they're going to be like, let me think more about like my childhood. Let me do some analysis on like, my childhood, be calling their parents. And, and it's hard too, because both my parents are gone. So I can't even analyze anything because what I remember as a kid learning as an adult, I can look back and be like, oh, okay, like I understand that more now. And what I thought was going on was not really going on because I was, 10.
Child, yeah.
But then I'm like, am I over analyzing it now as an adult? And I have nobody to ask. So I feel like everyone's going to be there calling their parents tonight.
Well, and I think too, a lot of people that I've coached actually have had at least one parent pass. It's been interesting to see that sort of cadence. And what they've been doing instead is going and talking to their brothers and sisters if they do in fact have relationships with them. And also journaling is a big one, is just being able to free write and journal about, let's say, for example, you started with the word procrastination at the top of the page. What are all the ways that you procrastinate now? And what are all the ways that you procrastinated when you were a kid? And then what happened when you procrastinated? Did you get attention from your parents when you did? Because that could actually be why you're procrastinating. You don't realize it. You're not trying to get attention from mom and dad now, but what you likely are doing is trying to actually feel good enough when you procrastinate or get validation from, say, your clients. That's a huge one I hear with procrastination is, and we never think that, right? When we're procrastinating on the task, we don't sit there and go, you know what? I'm really trying to get attention from my mom when I was
Right.
We're just doing it. And so when you actually sit and journal, again, I like to just take the word that I'm dealing with, perfectionism, people pleasing, procrastination, put one word right at the top, and then free write about what are my experiences now, what did I do in the past, and and why do I think I did it? Like, what did I get out of it by doing it? And often it was attention.
I think that's so valid. I mean, that's so valid. Whether it's positive attention, negative attention, whatever the attention is.
Yep.
We just want something. We want
negative attention was attention.
Yeah.
Negative attention was still attention, even if we were acting up.
It's like, it's like negative publicity, still publicity. Like people still hearing your name and seeing your face. But yeah, this has been so helpful. I feel like, I learned a lot of even just the little tools that can be helpful in the now. We don't have to do extensive research and make these 6-month plans to like figure these things out. Like make your 4 lines, write the words, and then, do 2 minutes of like thinking.
And yeah, and I was going to say, start with one task. Don't be like, okay, I'm going to go back to the gym 5 days this week. No. Yep. Don't do that. Because what's happening is now you're going to shock the nervous system into one rung lower. If you're already at level 2, by you going to the gym 5 days a week, going to Orange Theory, you're going to go back down to 3. You have to go slow. So maybe you're like, I wrote out, after 15 seconds, I danced and I took a breath. I'm feeling pretty good, but I'd actually love to go for a walk around my building or walk around my house and then get some fresh air and go back in and start again. Like it literally can be that simple, but we're like, no, I'm going to go, because we're go-getters. We're like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go 5 days a week and I'm going to
I'm an all or nothing person. I am the person who like cold turkey, like decides to up and go back to the gym 5 days a week.
Which is why we fail at it, quote unquote.
It lasts 2 weeks, and then I'm like, oh, I'm a failure.
And then that perpetuates the story, right? Of I'm not good enough or I'm not doing enough. And so that's why I always say, like, if you tend to be an all or nothing, which I think we all are, myself included, I think it's great to be able to be like, what could I do differently that is the exact opposite of what I want to do right now?
Or like take what you're thinking and do 1/4 of that. Like that's whatever idea you have, split that into 4 parts and only do one. Like that's
totally. Yes. Yeah.
I love this. This was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
So awesome. I will make sure everyone knows how to reach out and how to get just more information from you and take up some of your time. Yeah, Katie, this
I
is
would love that. Yeah,
so
thank you
eye
so much. And if anybody wants to say hi after you've listened to this, head on over to kg.katiegrimes on Instagram and like just literally send me a DM. Be like, I just listened to you and Jodi. Like, this was really great. This is what I got out of it. Like, it's so validating for me because I'm living my purpose. And so when
opening.
my goal is to help people. So when somebody texts and says, I listened to the podcast, that is,
I love
don't
it.
feel like you're being a burden. That's actually like literally the gas tank. It's now filling because you're doing
Yep.
that. So
Oh,
I
I love
strongly
it.
encourage, and I don't sell in the DM. So if you're interested, you can always reach out for coaching. And I'll just have you apply with a questionnaire. And then from there, I'll actually give you my recommendation of what I think you should do next, whether that's coaching or not, or just something that you can do on your own. So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. And I will make sure everyone has your Instagram. And I always throw lots of clips up even before the podcast episode comes out so people will see and hear from you before they actually hear the long version. So,
Love it.
Katie Grimes, you're awesome. I'm super appreciative. And you guys keep being bosses.